Within the depths of the mysterious Mall of Misery lies a maze of twisty little passages, all alike. Liminal spaces that connect storefronts to their service spaces. In search of the unwholesome secrets behind a mysteriously rebuilt video store now harboring unwholesome doppelgangers, the members of a secret society assemble to scrutinize those films which are rumored to drive viewers to madness and dissolution. Draw closer, dear listener. Let your trembling ears sup upon the eldritch knowledge of the Cinemania Society.
We the fellows of the Lenses Hall do convene to judge if this fine cinema worthy of our esteem, or whether it should cast down worthless hokum. Let us don our feathers in judgment.
We the fellows... The story so far. Oh, forget the story. We're trapped in a fridge. We're slowly dying. Spirits low. Water non-existent. Food gone. All that's left to eat is this delicious, long, girthy salami.
Put down the fucking salami. Alright, so I know it was my pick, and those of us who pick aren't usually the first to give our judgment, but...
Oh, yes, of course. We'd like to have the last word if we're the Sinquisitor.
Nope. I'm going to do whatever the fuck I want, and you know that. So, I first saw Moon at a San Francisco Film Festival on what may have been the world's longest date. I mean, if I'm remembering correctly, it involved a multi-hour drive to get there, at least 2 meals, and at least 3 full-length films. I mean, why I ended up marrying that guy is beyond me, but anyways, I knew nothing about the movie going into it. I mean, I only chose it because I knew that Duncan Jones was Zoe Bowie. And since I love all other things Bowie, I assumed I would love his son's projects as well. So I didn't really have any expectations going into the film. Like, I didn't look up anything about it. I didn't read a synopsis or anything. I just went into it blind. So finding out that he was a clone was a pretty cool little twist, when you haven't seen anything before. And I was pleasantly surprised. I really liked the film when I first saw it, but this isn't like the beautiful post-scarcity space communism far, far future of Star Trek where like humanity already has everything figured out and Earth is a utopia and we look down on those poor little planets who haven't figured it out yet and we're here to help them. This is like the gritty, messy, ethically ambiguous near future of things like Alien and Black Mirror. Like these things aren't technically possible yet, but they will be soon, and it's easy to imagine all of this technology is only 1 or 2 steps away from what we do currently have. This is the future where capitalism rules and we are slaves to the almighty dollar and the corporations that value their bottom line over our lives or our duplicates' lives or any lives really. And we might not have clones yet, but if we did right now, they would be commodities and they would have a value and they would like a dollar amount attached to them, and they would be not even commodities isn't even the word I'm looking for, like products almost,
Yep.
And we would argue over their humanity, their ownership, their autonomy, their value. And it's been a topic of a lot of media lately because I think people feel like we're getting closer and closer to it being a reality. So movies like The Island, which I know isn't that new, and then shows like Living with Yourself and Severance, they've explored issues surrounding clones or other types of duplicates and like how real are they? How individual are they? Do they have their own humanity? What's the word I'm looking for? Or how much autonomy and how much authority do we give them over themselves? Or are they just property? Agency, that's the word I'm looking for. How much agency do they have? And how much agency do we give them? Do they just deserve it? Or do we have to give it to them, And then Black Mirror has also dealt with this kind of thing. And then they also have multiple episodes about how technology will save us all, but only if we can afford it because profits are more important than people in the eyes of corporations. And they will fuck you over without batting an eye if it means more money in their pockets. I mean, this movie even looks like Alien.
Yeah.
It is. It's that same gritty, dark, near future that could potentially happen. This is, it takes a lot to imagine Star Trek happening. We've got a lot of steps between us and that. But we only have a couple steps between us and Alien or Moon or Severance. Mm-hmm. And they actually never specify a date anywhere in the movie. it was made in 2009. Right? For all we know, it could be taking place in 2009. I mean, if the space race hadn't ended, or if we'd found a profitable commodity on the moon, this whole setup is completely doable, like right now, aside from the clones. But like, if we just took the time, we could put all this crap on the moon right now, pretty simply. There's a lot of logistics, but the technology exists. Like, I don't know if any of you have seen For All Mankind. It's like an alternative history, alternative future sort of show, where like, what if the space race hadn't ended and we kept investing in space stuff, and like when they get to the current time, they're on Mars already, because we could do it if we really wanted to. We really pushed ourselves. We could.
That's the alternate future one where the Soviets won the moon race, right?
Yeah.
Yes, but then the bigger part isn't just who won the moon race, but it's like that the space race kept going, that we kept investing in this stuff, and that we kept trying to be in space. And so, like, for making us like look at ourselves as a society, and look and think about these ethical issues, that these are the kind of things that as a society we don't typically think about them until after they become an issue. This movie is 100% guilty. 100% guilty.
Oh, very much. It really sounds like you're finally coming around to the conclusion that Alien is the best movie in film history. And all of you who don't agree are wrong.
I will concede that it was a foundational and fundamental film that inspired many others after.
It was
How's
an
that?
important movie.
You're wrong, but it's okay. I like to think of Moon as an unlicensed sequel to Alien, or possibly
prequel.
Well, a quell at any rate.
Well, maybe it's happening concurrently. Like, this is what's happening close to Earth, while Alien is happening a little further out.
Yeah, a periquel. There we go. We'll say a periquel. There's a lot of reasons that I see this, and the most obvious being that, as you mentioned, its depiction of cosmic exploitation by a soulless interplanetary corporation. Because if Alien taught us anything, it's that the only thing more deadly than flesh-scouring space mutants, deadlier even than the howling void itself, is capitalism. It transcends all laws and moral scruples, and is without shame in its constant attempts to create classes of people seen as disposable, and then aggressively expands the boundaries of those classes, because the sociopathic urge to make a buck trumps all, pun very much intended. So I'm glad you at least appreciate that.
So are we moving on to your judgment now, I assume?
Well,
judge away.
You made a good point about how it looks like Alien. This is why I think of it as an unlicensed sequel to Alien, because you see other connections to what I think it's actually even called the Ridley-verse. Movies like Blade Runner and Alien are all tied together. Other connections to the Ridley-verse are all over Moon. In fact, Duncan Jones got the supervising model maker from Alien, Bill Pearson, to design the rovers and the harvesters.
Oh, wow.
No way.
Yeah. And those were actual models, not more digital slop. So
even the font on all of the labeling looked the same.
Yeah. And that's actually another key point, is because Tony Noble was the production designer for Moon, and he really very clearly cloned Ron Cobb's design at the USCSS Nostromo. Copied it wholesale. And goes beyond just stuff like shape, flow, and color palette. This includes the semiotics. And if you don't know what semiotics are, okay, so the little signs for generic human stick figures like you see on bathroom doors, or the ones that you see slipping on wet floors or getting mangled in machinery.
Symbols that communicate for you.
That's right. They're symbols that communicate complex ideas clearly without the barrier of language. Those are semiotics. And Moon, just like Alien, has a background chock full of semiotics on the airlocks and the bulkheads and the consoles, all the signs and symbols that are actually, and they're almost, but not quite, an exact duplicate of Ron Cobb's very unique and groundbreaking work to create the corporate hellscape and space look that felt so natural and realistic that we've forgotten that it was art design in the first place. And we've just come to accept that this is how the future looks. Actually, Duncan Jones almost copped to that entirely in an interview after Moon's release, when he said he, quote, wanted to create something which felt comfortable within that canon of those science fiction films from the sort of late 70s to early 80s, end quote. Other interviews, he specifically name-checked both Alien and Silent Running as a film he wanted to emulate. So glad you brought up Silent Running.
Wait, just like Silent Running, it has a very similar visual, where it's mostly, like 90% of the movie is one person in one setting.
Yeah.
So you can really focus in on details, because the big picture is constant. and you've got all these little details, but like you're only in one space base,
Yeah.
one
Yeah.
mining base, so you can look at all the little details because you're not going to, a bunch of different locations. Never follow someone to a second location, right?
It's almost like
Good.
people listen to Rocket Man on repeat.
And Gertie's
great.
ubiquitous robotic arm is very silent running.
Oh,
Just-
yeah.
In movies like this, the whole setting actually becomes a character into itself. So putting in all of that, art department work is very important to tell the story, because you have the story of, down to the writing on his walls. There's those long shots just establishing, just to show how long he's there, and all the coffee stains on Gertie, and just, the moon base itself is very much a character and a device for telling this story.
Oh, yeah.
And
Well-
you see later that Gertie didn't fully have enough time to reset everything
Mm-hmm.
before Sam 2 woke up,
Uh-huh.
Yep.
because Sam 1 came back. Normally he would have been in the infirmary for a couple weeks, and Gertie could cover up all those little hash marks he made on the bathroom wall, and you
Yep.
could see they were kind of half painted over. You could
Yeah.
find them. So like those little bits that, the
Scrubbed
setting
off, but you could
becomes
still
a really
see
great
the
part of it.
Yeah.
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 Well, however similar Moon might be to Alien, it is just different enough to have its own individuality. So kind of like the way Sam Rockwell's performance is Sam Bell 1, Sam Bell 2, and Sam Bell 3. Like, they're all very similar, but they're not identical. And in this movie's the same way, and I doubt that was accidental, especially given Moon's story of soulless capitalism in space. And I love Duncan Jones having made that choice. But you brought up Gertie, Andy. So, like, why something as big and clunky as Gertie and not a artificial person? And I think with that choice, Jones might be suggesting that every transplanetary corporation cuts corners just a little bit differently. On a related note, I want to say I absolutely love that they chose to cast Matt Berry and Benedict Wong as the said corner-cutting corporate middle manager douchebags running that turd circus.
Were they
Perfect
even
casting
known in
choices, no notes.
2009?
They were known as comedy actors on TV.
Yeah, I'm not hard-pressed to find any feature film having cast either of those guys before this.
Yeah,
They'd been in like the IT crowd on TV
Yep.
and
Mm-hmm.
things like that.
Or Snuff Box, but,
Yeah.
nothing like as higher profile as this. So, like, Moon is basically like Alien meets The Truman Show. And speaking of TV shows,
Oh my God,
did you know
yes.
Moon recycled sets from a failed feature film adaptation of Red Dwarf?
Huh.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Wouldn't it be great if Sam Bell clones were calling one another Smeghead?
Oh God.
Okay, so you mentioned, we were talking about like how they cast Matt Berry and Benedict Wong. This was like maybe their first feature film casting ever. I don't know for sure, but pretty sure this is one of the first, if not the first casting for at least Matt Berry. And the thing that knocks me over about this is Moon was made in 2009 for $5 million, right? That is the same budget that Shaun of the Dead had when they took a bunch of other British TV actors and catapulted them into the feature film landscape. $5 million is firmly in the low-budget independent film category, and I was personally crewing on films around that time and on ones that had more than double that budget, and despite the best efforts of the tradespeople, those movies just simply could not do what this film did. At $5 million, it isn't quite as extreme in its penny pinching as, say, like Cube was, if you guys remember that 1999 film,
Cube.
Canadian indie film.
Yeah.
It didn't take place entirely in one set, but it came really close. And it really was Sam Rockwell's performance that tied the whole room together, man.
I was about to ask, how much did Sam Rockwell give for that? Because if this was just a $5 million budget film, I mean, if he wanted to, I mean, most of that budget could have been just to get him.
I
But,
don't think so.
Yeah.
I don't think he
Rockwell,
wasn't that big yet.
he'd been in some stuff. I mean, he had been in Galaxy Quest. He'd been in Hitchhiker's Guide. He was a known quantity, and he could
Charlie's
command.
Angels.
But, a lot of actors like him, they take
He's
relatively little.
Yeah.
He's a known quantity, but he wasn't A-list or anything like that.
No.
He's not that
Yeah.
big. He's
He's
good.
getting
But he's not,
close.
Right.
He was getting close.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
He's not
like-
royalty, but he's like a duke or an earl.
yeah, even A-listers will go on low budget projects like this if they believe in the script enough. And Clearly, he's one of those actors.
That's what I was wondering.
We've talked about this in the past, how budget restrictions can kind of help a film almost. It kind of
very much
forces them to be a little more creative, and
very much.
That we see that in this.
Yeah,
I think unless it wasn't just like that's all the money he get, maybe that's all the money he needed. That's what I would like to believe.
It came pretty close to doubling its money. Like, it made $9.8 million in global box office sales, which, it's not a financial smash like Shaun of the Dead was, but it's still enough, depending on the waterfall, that maybe its investors got paid back at least. But really more than anything, I mean, it was successful in the sense that it made its nut. The thing that really caused it to do well, though, wasn't even so much its financial success, but its critical success. Like, it got nominated for a bunch of awards, it won a bunch of awards, including a BAFTA and a Hugo Award, and was celebrated by scientists at NASA. Was screened at the Houston Space Center, NASA's Houston Space Center. It's considered by the scientific publication Trends in Cognitive Sciences to be the best brain science movie of all time. And I think all of that is something that gave Duncan Jones enough of a boost in reputation that other people would take a chance on him as a film director, and he could begin to step out of his father's shadow a little.
I agree.
Was this his first film?
I don't think
his first big film.
I think it was at least his big, first big feature. He may have done other things prior to this, but I think this is the thing that put him on the map. So for that, and for the danger that Moon clearly poses to scientific thought, all of that is more than enough for me to judge this film exceedingly guilty.
All right.
Who else wishes to pass judgment?
I'll go next then. I remember when this film came out. Remember 2009, the Marvel Cinematic Universe was just about kicking into position. Iron Man had come out. It was very much the era where it was known that big, flashy CGI effects were going to be the thing. They had arrived, they had been effectively perfected. That's going to be what we're having in movies from now on, we thought. It's all going to be flashy, expensive Hollywood productions. And then Moon came out, and it has these model shots. And certainly to a British person, everyone immediately said, that's just like Thunderbirds. We all remember from our childhoods. And remember, Thunderbirds was a 1960s TV series with really impressive model work for the time that still looks great. A lot of the work that was done on this TV show went on to become the work that would become Star Wars and the sort of Dykstra effects and stuff like that. And it got repeated over and over again. So every generation since the 60s had grown up with it. So to the British, we saw that and we're like, oh my God, amidst all of this Hollywood spectacle, somebody's using models. And this was supposed to be a thing that was no longer going to be in cinema anymore. And that immediately made people take a bit more attention to it, certainly in Britain. And when you found out that it was directed by the son of David Bowie, well, obviously British people again said this is significant. we need to have a look at this. And so I remembered watching it. I loved it at the time, and it seemed a lot more futuristic and less plausible then than it does now. Even less than 20 years later, we're very close to being where Moon is. And this is very much a film that could be, in future times, a documentary of what somebody's doing. There is helium-3 on the Moon. It is a very useful substance that we possibly are going to have to go up there and get sometime. Who knows?
Yeah, how else am I supposed to be able to talk like this all the time?
And it's, as I don't need to explain to you, it's a primordial element that's formed by the bombardment of lithium by naturally occurring neutrons. It's likely to exist in large amounts.
You don't need to, but you're going to anyways.
Lunar regolith. So yeah,
We'll
be doing this kind of thing at some point, and Moon shows us how. And once again, we have a science fiction movie whose whole premise is, do not do things this way. This is not how you should be setting up a lunar process. You shouldn't be treating people this way. You shouldn't be using machines, people, processes any way like this. It's a warning. This film is saying, do not do this. This isn't a good way of exploiting the Moon. And of course, there are people watching
Elon,
this.
cough.
There are definitely going to be people watching this thinking, hey, we could build that, we could do that, and they're going to end up doing something like this. This
It
film,
needs a big red warning at the end that says, "This is not an instruction manual."
while charming in its time, is going to more and more be first a deadly warning and then a lamentable case of, we warned you, why did you do exactly that? And for that reason, I have no choice but to judge it absolutely guilty.
One question. So you're saying Thunderbirds are go?
Thunderbirds are gone, went, come back again. They have been the most popular thing on TV for about 3 or 4 different generations by now.
You know, I never put together the Star Wars model making, which Star Wars, that part was made in England, wasn't it? Yeah.
No, the model making stuff was made in Santa Clarita. Yeah. If you want to know more about that, you can. There's actually a really excellent series on Disney Plus called Light and Magic, where they dive into the deep history. It's a docu-series that dives into the deep history of industrial light and magic and all the effects dudes who are really into doing that. In fact, it was. I had a really funny experience where I ran into a guy. I took my dad out to lunch, and we ran into a guy who had been 15 years old and recruited to help the model makers when they first started out. We were just chatting with this guy at lunch. It was really funny.
So, is there a connection between anybody who worked on Thunderbirds who worked on Star Wars?
Well, a lot of the techniques that were used at the time went on to become the cutting edge model filming techniques that later became. Because a lot of the Star Wars guys then went back to England and worked on Space 1999, which was very Star Warsy. Everything feeds into everything else and goes back and forth and back and forth.
Battlestar Galactica became a thing too.
Yeah. Those were going on concurrently. In fact, the look of the Eagle 1, I think is what it was called in Space 1999. When that came out, George Lucas had actually come up with the idea. The Millennium Falcon was supposed to look like
it was a design that they'd cast away that they weren't going to use, and then somebody ended up.
They were actually in the process of building the model at the time when Space 1999 came out, and the interior sets and stuff like that were supposed to have been used. And while they were in pre-production on this, with these production designs that had been sorted out, Space 1999 came out completely independently. And George Lucas was like, I don't want people to think that I'm ripping off this show. We're going to change the look of the Millennium Falcon around. We'll reuse these sets for the interior, the blockade runner, for these scenes that we're shooting, and then we'll retool the model to be this is Princess Leia's ship. So there may have been some flow back and forth, but at the time, at least according to the Light and Magic docuseries, Lucas was like, oh, actually, I don't want people to think I copied them.
Right. Well, none of this, exists within a complete bubble into itself. There's always ebb and flow.
And for a moment there in 2009, we thought, hey, maybe models are going to make a comeback. Maybe we're not going to go down the route of everything being computer generated. And, well, we all know what came next.
Talking about model making reminds me of a story I heard. So after the original Star Wars was shot, all the models and stuff were just got rid of because nobody thought it was going to be a huge cult success like it was. So the original Death Star was sold, and it was just sitting in someone's garage for a while, and then they had, I can't remember exactly the reason why it was gotten rid of in a garage sale, but the guy who bought it was this guy who ran a local fast food restaurant that was space themed, and he bought the Star Wars Death Star model. And the thing is, the Death Star model didn't have the shield anymore, or the laser. It just had a big hole in it. So he used it as a trash can. He used it as a trash can for a long time. And when that restaurant closed and they were getting rid of stuff, some people saw it, recognized it for what it was, and bought it. And eventually they sold it back to Lucas. And that is the only reason why the original model for the Death Star still exists.
And it was filled with restaurant trash?
It was filled with restaurant trash for quite a while.
Oh my God.
Yeah. it's funny. There's all kinds of stories about stuff like the big model they used in Waterworld for the Valdez got turned into a stage at Wasteland Weekend for a while.
Oh yeah, a lot of those great big models, props and stuff like that that they built end up just kind of, ending up in private hands, or like Mystery Men, the Herkimer battle jitney. It was rotting on a lot for a long time until someone found it and gave it all the love that it needed, and now it's doing parades. Yeah.
But I digress. You mind if I do my judgment now?
Oh, go ahead.
All right. Okay.
So, it's Hope's show. She's Pontifex.
Oh, I don't give a fuck what you all do.
Right. Okay. That being said, I loved this movie the first time I saw it. And I just happened to recently listen to an audiobook by, what's his name, Andy Weir? Yeah, Andy Weir, the same guy who did The Martian, which was turned into that movie with Matt Damon. But he's really good with hard science fiction. He tries to get the science as close as he can. And he wrote this book, Artemis, and Artemis is a lunar colony, and he talks about all the trials and tribulations of living on the moon. And watching the movie Moon was a great companion piece for this, especially watching it again after I had listened to Artemis, because one of the things the two have is the mining of helium on the moon. They didn't call it helium-3, but as interesting as like helium-3 being an energy source, they still talked about in this book mining helium from the rocks. Also mining aluminum and oxygen. There's a big part in the book where they actually talk about getting their oxygen supply as a byproduct from the aluminum industry on the moon.
That's actually why they screened it at NASA's Houston Space Center. Moon, it's the first piece of science fiction, film or otherwise, up to that point that talked about mining helium-3 on the moon. So, Artemis was, I read the same book. That book came out after Moon, so I'm not surprised that they incorporated that.
Actually, that puts some things into context, because I was noticing some similarities of it. One thing that I was disappointed that they didn't bring up on Moon is the problem with lunar dust living up there, especially the scenes where Sam is coming in and out of the rover. I felt like he would be covered in lunar dust, and lunar dust is a huge problem because there's no atmosphere smoothing it down. It's basically like asbestos on steroids. It's like breathing in razor blades. It fucks your lungs up, and it's also very dry, so it just clings to everything. So at least in Artemis, they talk about how they have these really intense decontamination protocols from anyone going out on the lunar surface and coming back, because they do not want this dust getting into where everybody just lives, because it will fuck you up.
Right. I think that's a matter of like what details they include and what details they don't, probably.
I agree.
Every show has to decide. Are we going to show how they go to the bathroom, how they shower? Are these details important to us? So, I mean, maybe it is something that would be dealt with, but maybe it's just so mundane they left it out.
I think it may have gotten rolled into the whole general thing with Sam Bell's clones wearing out. Like they show him having some serious health problems, not just from radiation, but all of the other exposures that he has. And probably didn't go into detail, but that is the thing that people have known about since the first moon landings in 1969.
Yeah, I bet. The other thing, bringing that up, talking about radiation and radiation shielding, it made me think that maybe the reason that the company decided to go with clones was because they were cutting back on things like radiation shield, and maybe the clones didn't have a 3-year shelf life because they just automatically died, like in Blade Runner where they had a set end date. But maybe it was just the exposure from the dust and the radiation that they realize that this is about as long as a clone can live up there in the facilities that they designed. And that's the reason why they decided to go with clones instead of people, because they didn't want to have actual contractors up there dying from radiation exposure and moon dust and stuff. So they just decided we'll go with disposable clones and nobody will miss them, and we can treat them as inhumanely as we want.
Yeah,
I see no reason it couldn't be both. They could cut corners and have cheap-ass clones who were going to die early, and then let them die even earlier from all of this exposure.
Well, the funny thing is that there was a spiritual sequel to this movie, and they had Sam Bell featured in basically talking with a number of his clones in the middle of a lawsuit against the company. It was just a throwaway cameo with Sam Rockwell as Sam Bell. And the idea being that, like, hey, you created a disposable class of people who thought they wouldn't be able to sue the corporation for treating them like, for exposing them to these things. You knew if you hired a contractor, sent them up there and they came back sick, then they would sue your pants off. But now you have somebody who's a clone of somebody that you can then dispose of and you don't get sued. And now he's returned to Earth, and first you try to castigate him as an illegal alien, right? Because that's the last thing you hear when we roll the credits is that, I don't care how you despise it. He's an illegal alien, right? Okay. That says an awful lot about disposable classes of people, and that Duncan Jones was thinking of that. I'm sorry.
And that's what they're talking about in Severance, too. Like, the severed personalities, are they disposable? Are they, Mute. And it's Mute. It's another one by Duncan Jones.
Oh, I'm going to have to check that out.
I think it's on Netflix right now, or Amazon.
It does give me good hope that Sam 2 is going to actually have a life, a longer life. But the only other thing that I could complain about, and this is actually a biggie, is the gravity issues on the moon, because he's seeing Earth gravity, and Earth gravity just does not happen on the moon. You have lunar gravity, and, So, for not getting the science right, I am going to judge this movie guilty. Although, admittedly, it is the closest we've got to hard science fiction on the moon so far in a movie.
Nonetheless, still guilty.
Still guilty. Still guilty.
Of course. And Professor Andrea, you've been quiet up till now. Do you have feelings?
I've been thinking about this movie, but not from the science angles, more from the psychological perspective, about interacting with yourself.
Oh, no.
Because we start off with the original, or Clone 1, of Sam Rockwell's character, and he's really lonely. He's not doing well, not just physically, but mentally. He talks to himself a lot. He's really desperate for any kind of news. And then he has this accident, and later we find out that he is not alone on this moon. In a lot of stories about clones, you'll find people like try to kill their other self, right? And there is a bit of a scuffle, but his interaction with his clone is really interesting and different, because he's so lonely. Even though an average person would be really freaked out by this, he just wants to connect. At one point, he asks if it's okay if they just touch hands. It's just like really touching and sad.
He's so desperate for any human contact. He does not care who or what it is. And I think in that handshake scene, he just wanted to confirm that he wasn't just hallucinating.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I also really loved how he portrayed three different ages of characters. How the oldest of the three clones, the one who'd been around the longest, was starting to act like a cranky old man, and they puts him into the thing to try to return him to Earth, and he's just like, man. I really loved how he's got, Sam the younger, Sam the present, Sam the elder. It's that crack. I love that.
And remember, it's a very low-budget film, so anytime you have Sam Rockwell interacting with himself would actually be really difficult to film, and so they kind of avoid that. You can tell that anytime they're almost about to touch, they sort of cut away, because it would be super difficult to film.
Yeah, and that kind of leads into the second point, which is Sam 2, the second clone. You would think that you would be super intrigued if you found out there was a clone of you, but he's actually super distant, and doesn't even seem freaked out by it. He's just like, stay out of my business. Leave me
He's
alone.
pissed
I think he's pissed off more than
Yeah.
anything.
Or
He just
that.
seems angry. Yeah.
He's like, what the fuck? Get out of my face.
I got the impression
I was
that
told I would be the only one here, and I wanted my fucking alone time.
I got the impression that he had figured it out pretty much straight away about cloning, and he was already going through the mental torment of, oh my god, this is a really bad situation.
So
It's going through the 5 phases right there.
his interaction with himself is super intriguing. And even though they do scuffle, almost immediately after, he feels kind of bad. He's like, did I hurt you? Like,
Yeah.
there's not that existential like desire to snuff out an imposter. They're actually like understand each other. Like they both admit they have anger management issues. He actually, Clone 2 tries to help Sam 1 when he's like got some definite problems physically, coughing up blood, not able to walk well. Like it's kind of nice to like, because a lot of people aren't nice to their own selves. So like to be nice to another version of you is kind of refreshing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, that's actually a really good point. It starts off, like we go through that whole transition of self-loathing to self-acceptance, and even self-love. Like that, that is a wonderful psychological transition there. And I think that may be why that Journal of Brain Science is like, yay, we love this movie. Very brief diversion. I want to check out one thing, which I want to shout out. Clint Mansell did the soundtrack, and he's the guy who did Darren Aronofsky's Pi, if anybody remembers that film.
Yeah.
But he's an absolute fantastic musician. He did the soundtrack. Sorry, go on.
Coming back to my point about how this is like the near future and things that could potentially happen, this is what they're looking at right now as far as space travel and space exploration, the psychological effects. Like we could send someone to Mars right now with the technology we have, but it's going to take months. They're going to be alone, or at least in a very small group. And so that's what they're testing right now. Are we going to go insane? Physically, we can handle this. Physically, we know how to do the radiation shielding and things like that. It's hard, but we can do it. But mentally and psychologically, can we handle this? Can humans handle this? Can we find the humans that will handle this? And it's kind of telling that they're mostly looking at women for these long journeys.
Yeah.
Women who,
Are more emotionally
our
stable than
hormones
men.
don't change every 24 hours. We are a little more steady, despite, the stereotypes. We are less likely to kill each other.
So anyway, the movie was
Go on.
really fascinating, but I was saddened because I think it gives us false hope that if we ever had clones, that it could end up this good. So for that reason, I must judge this movie guilty.
Is it unanimous then?
Well,
We still don't know what Daniel would judge,
When is
but
it
we'll
not?
see.
Whoa, Daniel, where have you been?
I have no idea, but I've got my judgment locked and loaded.
How though? You missed the whole adventure and the summary.
I don't know where I was. I was trapped. Trapped in a world of bathroom accoutrements and general home supplies.
And beauty supplies.
Also somehow beyond those things.
But you saw what was going on?
That's how liminal spaces work, motherfucker. I had a strange sense of what was happening. Like looking in through a frosted window, trapped, yet present. There, yet here. Here, yet not here. Because I was actually there all along.
Kind of like that whole incident with the mallard.
Yes, but we don't discuss the mallard, do we?
I know. We never do.
I remember people talking about the moon and walking through strange, unknown corridors, and Andy was waving a penis around.
Ah! You see?
Okay, that's weird. And it's a salami, but whatever, go for it.
Thank you. So, like, this movie was fucking dark. Like, even after I finish watching it, the more I think about it, the more upset it makes me. But, like, in a good way, not in like a Star Trek 2 Into Darkness sort of way, where I just kind of just kept getting more and more mad after I left the theater. I'm like, that was such shit. But, like, this one, like, even the way that they do, you know, showing you the way they incinerate the clones, like, the door doesn't even completely shut. It's just boom, done, gone, dead. Like, the poor clone is still trying to, like, get comfortable in his little pod. Like, you can see him wiggling around. He's still looking for, like, the lumbar support, which admittedly there is none because that also got cut from the budget, right? Along with the toilet seats and any other kind of self-care besides a fucking Floby. Like,
They are 100% commodities.
They gave no fucks. Zero fucks spent.
So, now, this was, also on top of that, I admit I had a little bit of a weird experience watching this movie because I had never actually seen it before. I watched it for this Conclave. Weirdly, because it's the sort of movie I definitely would have watched at the time. And also, I thought I had seen it. But what I was thinking of was Pandorum, which came out around the same time and definitely did not have the same plot, but there were substantial tonal similarities and thematic similarities. So, like, I kept going through this being like, okay, wait, so when are we going to discover that he's hallucinating? I'm expecting more extreme paranoia. This is way more, not feel good, but at least feelsy. Like, these are just normal people, right? Which, like, I think Andy already called it, right? Like, Sam Rockwell is who you get when you want, like, an Owen Wilson effect, but you actually want it to be good, right? Like, I realized that with this film. Like, Sam Rockwell is actually just the much better version of Owen Wilson in a weird way.
He even had, like, Owen Wilson cadence in some of his lines.
Well, but it got me thinking, he actually has that, that's how he is in most movies. Like, if he's doing, like, sort of the stuff that he's, like, his sweet spot as an actor, Sam Rockwell. Sam Rockwell as an actor, his main character area is where Owen Wilson lives. It's just way better, like, way better. But in any case, since we have to judge this film, and, you know, for Cinemania, I have to say, you know, not just because of my experience with the film, right, where I was like, I thought I'd seen this before, but I hadn't, right? I think that this movie really, really gaslights the audience, like any audience. You know, first of all, right, this is an inhuman situation in so many different ways, right? In terms of the environment, right? It's the moon. It's about as inhospitable to humanity as and life as you can imagine, right? The literal weirdness of, like, facing yourself constantly, the accelerated mortality, but of course, most of all, the inhumanity of what Lunar Corporation is doing to these people, right? And it's such a human movie.
But it doesn't see them as people. That's the main point. They're clones. They're not
I totally get the point.
In their
I totally
eyes.
I understand the message that the movie is trying to do, but they are humanizing such an inhuman situation. I mean, that is just gaslighting the audience. Now, I mean, especially when, you know, if you think about this is the next thing I think is a really crucial aspect of the gaslighting here. Like, we're led to believe, especially once we discover that the original Sam Rockwell, right, is down there somewhere on Earth with his family, and his wife passed away, and he never actually even came up to the moon, but he let Lunar Corporation...
We don't know that, actually.
Yeah, no, you hear it in the background.
We don't know if he even knows that he's been cloned. Well, we know he's down on Earth. We don't know if he knows he's been cloned. We don't know if he was ever an employee of Lunar. We don't know any of this.
Actually, it is revealed in Mute at the very end in the tag that he was vaguely aware of what they were doing. He claims he didn't fully understand the implications and everything that they were going to be doing, but whatever. But regardless,
got it. Cool.
This movie is trying to suggest to us, between this and then the Mute tag, and also there's a comic book which I read, which is even further delves into it as like the third part of the trilogy. We're led to believe that Security Officer Guy, right, from the NSEA Protector, would ever let a corporation clone him for such awful purposes. I mean, that's That's just not right. You know, like he would never let that happen.
He just became the quintessential red shirt, you know, the ultimate red shirt that you can just like, I don't know. It's getting more into like
The ultimate disposable
think about
guy.
it. All through
Exactly.
Galaxy Quest, he's lamenting his role as a red shirt, like, and how unfair it is, and how terrified he is of it, and then he's willing to let them make more red shirts, knowing what they're gonna go through. I'll say it again. That's just not right.
Relax, man. Do you have a name?
Lastly, hang on. We got one more massive gaslighting going on here.
Okay.
We are led to believe that robot Kevin Spacey, ultimately, everything he's doing is because he cares about these people, and no matter what, he'll do anything to protect them. Please. All right, we know that that's not the case.
That was a very, very like Deus Ex Machina sort of moment. Like there was zero reason for him to turn around and suddenly be helpful.
Think of all the ways that at first, right, the movie's trying to teach us a very valuable lesson about both AI and Kevin Spacey, that they are not to be trusted, right? We know that robot Kevin Spacey is a lying liar from the beginning, all the way through. Like, you can even see it in the beginning, right? You can see the signs of robot Kevin Spacey, where it's like, you know, he's trying to, the clone is trying to fix a thing, and then the arm comes in and like basically non-consensually bashes him on the shoulder, right? And he's like, what the fuck, what are you doing? Oh, I was just trying to help you. Sure. And so like later in the movie, where he's like, okay, just tell me the truth. Am I a clone, right? And then robot Kevin Spacey is like, yes, I'm sorry, you're a clone. I was constantly sitting there screaming. It's like, no, it's a lying liar robot. You're not a clone. I fully believe that the point in that moment that the movie was trying to make was he's not a clone, because we cannot trust anything robot Kevin Spacey says.
But actually, the robot didn't say you're a clone ever. He said, who am I? He says, you're Sam Bell. Who's that guy? He's Sam Bell. So
No. Later in the movie, when it's just really like three-year-old Sam 1. Right.
Sam 1.
And he's like, and he's really out of it. He's starting to die. He's in a corner against like a bulkhead. He's talking to him. He's like, give it to me straight. And the robot does say, yeah, you're a clone.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
he reminds him
afterwards,
he says, do you remember you getting in a small accident on your way here? You weren't really in an accident. You were being awoken from storage.
Yeah, it explains the whole situation to him. And at first I'm like, no, the point that the movie's trying to make here is that's a lie. So he isn't the clone, because you can't trust the robot. But then later it's like, no, this was the robot telling the truth. And that's gaslighting the audience to ever suggest that robot Kevin Spacey will ever tell the truth or ever try to take care of you. I am convinced to this day, but to this moment, the robot arm that helped him key in the password. Now, Kevin Spacey robot later on lies and gaslights him that was it trying to help. But I am convinced that was a different sentient AI helping him. And I'll tell you how we know this. That robot arm, as it's reaching past him to type in the password on the keyboard, doesn't touch him without asking. Not robot Kevin Spacey. Okay. And therefore, for all of the gaslighting, by trying to convince us that robot Kevin Spacey has our best interests at heart, that it is making us feel for such an inhuman situation, and the notion that security officer Guy from the NSEA Protector would ever allow something so unethical to be done with his DNA, I find this film guilty of Cinemania.
Interesting. And fun fact, gaslighting actually doesn't mean what you think it does. You're crazy, and you were wrong all along.
So this was the last thing.
Fucking
Actually,
God,
this is even
Andy,
taking
give me
it,
that salami.
This is taking it even a step further. How can Kevin Spacey robot gaslight anyone? We clearly see it gaslighting all of the Sams for a while. But it's fully electric.
Well,
how
you
is
know
it
what?
gaslighting?
The Gertie Kevin Spacey consciousness is kind of throughout the whole base. But maybe there's different ones. Maybe there's like a kitchen Gertie and a living room Gertie and a control room Gertie, and they're acting independently.
None of them
like
are
the arms of an
gas-powered.
octopus.
None of them are gas powered.
Oh, fine. Well, you don't know. The helium-3 is a gas. I bet that's what they're running on.
No. They're not going to spend that on the station. They're going to send that home.
Yeah, they are. No, because it's the cheapest thing to use. That's why they're using it.
Didn't you see all the solar panels? They run it off solar energy.
Oh, they probably have both.
Well, they probably running off of hydrogen 3. But what you're saying is that there's one AI which they replicated or cloned throughout the station into different devices.
No. No, get out of the rabbit hole. Out. Everyone, out of the rabbit holes.
Ooh, I'm getting cold. How are we getting out of here then?
We can't. The door is jammed.
Lone Star!
I guess this is where we end. Trapped in a freezing tomb for all eternity. At least we finished our conclave on Moon, though. There's a lesson in all of this.
Yeah, right. We really learned an important lesson this time.
Really? What lesson?
Okay, you got me. I don't get it.
Look, it's a simple story. Boy meets no one, boy misses girls, clone meets boy, boy fights clone, clones finds evidence of creepy corporate malfeasance, clones unite to fight moon madness, Kevin Spacey is there, it's just the usual sort of thing you always see.
Indeed, have we not heard it all so many times before? So trite.
So that's it then? We're trapped? Trapped without any hope of escape? Never to find a way out? Abandon all hope of... Oh.
Are you kidding me?
Hello, friends. What are you doing in the refrigeration unit? You should be careful. The door sticks sometimes.
Never go into any windowless rooms. That's what I always say. You always got to know what your window situation is.
Egad, the clonusses! I can't believe how embarrassing it is to be saved by our own nemesis.
That's nemesis. If you're going to hurl invective, hurl true.
Oh, you folks can each say it in your own way. I won't word police you. Language is flexible.
Whatever. A save is a save. Out of the way, clone boy.
Excuse me. Ouch. Why did you call us clones, by the way?
You guys aren't clones?
I know.
Perfect. Well, scratch that theory off the list then. I'm done with theories. Someone else come up with an explanation next time.
Well, all I've learned from this whole bloody thing is don't walk into a fridge, and if you do, you better have a
still don't
salami
trust them,
with you.
clone.
Andy, you're the one who shoved us into the goddamn fridge to begin
I
with.
thought it was something else entirely. I can't be held
It doesn't
responsible for that kind
disprove
of thing.
Brew theory. It just disproves there weren't any grooves in
Holding you
there.
responsible and leave the salami behind.
Hey, you put down a salami, man. You know I'm picking it up.
Your mom's a salami.
Man, those funny little dudes and their adventures, man.
Do you think we should reveal to them why we're really here?
Why haven't we told them?
Oh, honey, they haven't asked. The Cinemania Society was written, produced, and performed by Hope Bravo, Andrea Palladino, Zachariah Burks, Ethan Ireland, Andy Slack, and Daniel Scribner. Editing and sound design by Ethan Ireland. Music by Carl Casey at White Bat Audio. Incidental music and sound effects courtesy of Epidemic Sound. The Cinemania Society is a work of fiction. Unless otherwise indicated, all the names, characters, businesses, places, events, and incidents appearing in this audio play are either the product of the author's imagination or are used in a fictitious manner. Any resemblance to actual persons living, dead, or actual events is purely coincidental and/or part of a work of parody that should not be construed as making statements or allegations of actual fact. All celebrity voices are impersonated unless otherwise stated. The Cinemania Society is available on social media. You can reach us on Facebook, Instagram, or Blue Sky, and our Reddit feed on r/The Cinemania Society, or just email us at thecinemaniasociety.gmail.com. You, yes, you listening right now, please take a second to drop us a line, because not only are we dying for an excuse to do a listener mail episode, we genuinely love to hear from you.